There we go. Second trade of this NBA trade deadline here. I think the actual deadline is later this week here in February, but some dominoes have already fallen. We saw Trae Young, and now the Kings getting into the trade market. It couldn't be any more Kings fashion than this. I haven't read a whole lot of other deals, but we saw Dennis Schroeder go out yesterday night for Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis for DeAndre Hunter, just straight up. And then Dario Saric and 2 second-round picks going back to the Kings as well. So let's break this one down here. First, in terms for the Kings, they got back DeAndre Hunter. They sent out a couple of players as well. So they gave up Keon Ellis. This season has been a little bit of a down year for him. But 5 points, not great shooting. But if you look back here, he shot a lot better last year, 40% from 3, 8 points per game. This was a guy that some contenders were after as a bench player. He's a pretty big guard that's a capable defender, 6'4", and I think maybe some teams were calling like the Spurs and the Celtics, the Hawks. There were other teams calling the Timberwolves maybe about trying to get this guy and probably would have unloaded draft capital. Instead, the Kings say, all right, well, we need more wing players, and they go ahead and grab DeAndre Hunter. Now, they also gave up Dennis Schroeder here. Dennis Schroeder has been a journeyman guy bouncing around all kinds of teams. He's almost completed the team rainbow sweep here. Detroit last year, he was in the playoffs, played huge minutes off the bench, and really kind of supplanted himself in place of Jaden Ivey as a guard alongside Cade Cunningham, and really proved his value on a winning team as well. So Cleveland, they didn't have a whole lot of point guard depth. You look down here, let's look here. We'll just look in terms of the payroll. I think that's another big part of this. But in terms of guards, they had Lonzo Ball off the bench, who's been okay for them, not fantastic. Sam Merrill's more of a wing shooter. Max Strus, more of a wing and shooter player. Garland and Mitchell, of course, guards, but they needed some bench help. They start these guys, and they throw shooters around them. So they pick up some more guys that can really be big time for them off the bench. A lot of these other guys, it's wing and forward depth. So they get back 2 guards that are good players that probably had value for picks, and they don't have to give up anything. How about Cleveland? They also dumped DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter, he's been a good player in this league. Don't get me wrong. 14 points per game this season for them. He played on Atlanta before. He's been kind of a 14 to 17 point per game player, 14, 15 point per game player. This season has been down in terms of shooting, only 30% from 3, 42% from the field. He's been a great defender. And now the Kings, they have Keegan Murray and DeMar DeRozan, but DeRozan's really been kind of more of a 4. They wanted more wing help. I don't hate the deal, but to not get back any picks, this team is rebuilding right now. They are the worst team in the Western Conference, I think. Even the Pelicans have jumped up above them. I know. Good gracious, the Pelicans are actually winning games. They've lost 8 in a row. This team is in a rebuilding spot. And to me, you would have wanted to get draft capital. How do you get draft capital for these upcoming drafts? How do you get draft capital? You ship off Ellis, I think Ellis is 24. Here, yeah, he's 26, sorry. Ship off Schroeder, who's kind of a contender piece right there, a minimum contract, or I think he's on a pretty good deal. But ship him off, and now you pick up the contract of DeAndre Hunter, and that's really the big thing here. Hunter making $23 million. This opens up huge cap space for this team, for the Cavaliers. This is a future cap space move. This gives them flexibility to do things in the offseason. It just gets them, I think, under the apron as well. And for them to pick up guards, to dump Hunter's money, and to lose a player where he's still got some value, but he's not really been a huge part for this team. I really like this deal for Cleveland. I think, we'll see how they do in the playoffs in terms of defense, but to me, it was a lot about scoring this past year when they lost over there to the Pacers. They were not able to score down the stretch outside of Donovan Mitchell. They needed guard play. Garland was hurt. They needed guys off the bench. They had a great amount of depth throughout the season, but when it came down to the playoffs and really making a run, they weren't able to do it, and they lost a lot of those guys that were big contributors as well. Really, Ty Jerome was a big one that they lost, and Lonzo Ball hasn't been able to do it. So for the Kings, I'm honestly I'm shocked that they didn't get any draft capital back from shipping out the guys they did. And I don't really understand it as well for them. How is Deandre Hunter, he's going to be taking minutes away from your first round guy. Imagine if they get a top 3 pick and they're drafting Peterson, or they're drafting DeBansa or Caleb Wilson or Boozer. That's a forward DeAndre Hunter is going to be in the way of those guys come draft season. So I don't really understand it. And for the Cavs, they've had an okay season, not as great as their season was last year. Okay in terms of, we had the best record in the East last season. Now they're hovering towards the top here. The East is a little bit of a jumble after the Pistons, who've had a great start. The Cavs are very much in the mix, and if they can stay in those top 4 seeds, they're going to have a good shot to make a run at the playoffs. They feel like, all right, well, this is a year for us to make a run. Let's get in some more guys that we feel like can contribute more and set ourselves up better for future success around Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell. So I like the deal. I think flexibility is huge in today's NBA. And yeah, let's take a look at this CBS article, because to me, there's some holes here for the Kings. They've got it an A- for Cleveland. They needed point of attack defense, so front defense with Mitchell, carrying such a big part of that offensive load. Secondary ball handler. They lost Ty Jerome, as we said, he was a 6 Man of the Year candidate. They tried to tackle both with Lonzo Ball, and they weren't really able to do that. So they got Schroeder, who's been inconsistent, but Schroeder has been bouncing around the leagues, and he plays well, plays poorly. I just think he's a valuable piece. So here we can look down as well. This is just kind of Schroeder's history. He played well and then poorly, basically, throughout a lot of teams. And then they needed bench scoring. 23rd in the NBA in bench scoring, as we said. And when Donovan Mitchell goes to the bench, they struggle. They get Schroeder. He's small, but he's a good defender, and he's pretty valuable. Ellis has been pretty good. He emerged as a starter last season, and actually 2 seasons ago, and shot 40% from 3. And then they started yanking his minutes, and now he's only around league average, around 40%. But I think Cleveland, just like we said, they get a lot of role players. So yeah, it says that there's some off-the-court issues with Ellis. I'm not super tapped into the Kings' personal situations here, but yeah, it looks like you could have fairly standard for undrafted or second-round stories to decline the team option and get better deals. It looks like Ellis declined his team option, and he wanted a bigger contract at the end of the season. It looks like the Kings didn't want to. They picked up their option on Ellis, and it meant he'd be an unrestricted free agent. They didn't want to try to re-sign him, thought he wanted too much money. Yeah, it looks like the Cavs, the Celtics, the Spurs all wanted him, and they ended up getting no picks back for him. Certainly, it's honestly surprising for me, but like I said, they gave up Tyrese Halliburton for Domantas Sabonis, and yeah, it's just puzzling situations, puzzling deals again for the front office. They lost De'Aaron Fox this past year in the deadline. Really disappointing, but Fox kind of requested out, and they were at a little bit of a rough spot. So they are short on wings, as they said. Keegan Murray's the only good one. And it seems like this article describes Hunter as an expensive veteran that's in his prime, but expensive again. And they want picks back. We've seen the best rebuilds that teams can do, like Houston, like Detroit, really, like Oklahoma City, of course, like San Antonio, is to get guys to trade other guys away for future picks, take on bad contracts for picks, and draft well. And the Kings they have drafted well. 2 of the teams here at the bottom of the standings, the Kings and the Pelicans, actually draft really good players, but it's poor decisions in the front office, poor coaching, I would argue, for a lot of this, and just poor on the court chemistry that loses a lot of these guys to better teams. So the Kings, they get out of here with, I think they get out of here with picks, but Yeah, it's not great to lose two guys that are valuable for other teams for nothing when you're trying to rebuild. So if we have some more big NBA deals, we'll have some more coverage and reactions here. And yeah, I'm excited for the rest of NBA trade deadline season. I'll see you soon.